How's it going, Airsofters? This is the Tomahawk, the brand new bullpup bolt action rifle from ICS. This video is going to be a bit of an introduction to it because you may be thinking about buying yourself one of these and you may be wanting to see some of the internal workings, how to maybe disassemble it before you commit to purchasing. So let's get on with it. Access to the bolt, the piston and the spring is all done via the back end. First of all, you just push out the pin at the bottom, and then you push up on the butt pad. Butt pad comes off, and then the spring cover just slides off. It's a plastic spring cover, just slides off there. And now you need to undo the spring guide. So just take a small Allen key. Don't unscrew it all the way, just unscrews enough just to push that in. And the spring guide comes out. And as you can see, I've done the Camman modification to mine, which you just take a small piece section of Camman and it goes under the spring, and that stops any of the twanging, the boinging noise that you get from shooting this rifle, which you do on a lot of the new bolt action sniper rifles these days. That will cure it, and a very easy modification to do. It's worth mentioning the spring inside there now is one that came from my SRS. I believe the spring that I replaced it with is an M140 SRS spring, and I did have to just put the power up spacer in there as well, just to get about 2.1 joules, I think it's at now, something like that. To remove the cylinder and the piston, you just pull the trigger in and it just slides out the back end. Easy as that. And there's your piston. Let's get some light on it, get some focus on it, and it still does feel a bit greasy, but it's worth mentioning that this thing was just covered, absolutely covered in silicone grease right out of the box, as was everything. The hop chamber, the barrel, the bucking, everything was smothered in silicone grease. So it's worth just, when you first get it, just giving it a good clean. The volume of the cylinder on the Tomahawk is 61 cc's. Now in comparison, the volume on a Silverback SRS is 41 cc's. So it's a massive difference. It is an extremely smooth cocking motion. You do have that little tight bit at the end where the piston goes over the sear. You can hear it clicking there. I mean, it's tougher than your conventional type sniper rifles. If you've got an SRS, you do know what it's like to cock a bullpup, especially when you're prone. It's quite tricky, but this is extremely smooth, a lot smoother than my SRS was out of the box. My SRS is an old one, so I'm just speaking from experience with that. I don't know about the newer one so much, but it is very smooth, no scraping whatsoever. Will mention as well, it does come out of the box with the bolt handle off, and it does have some kind of thread lock on there. I would recommend, if you're going to permanently keep it on there, that you put some decent thread lock on there, because that doesn't seem to keep it tight at all, and it does work its way loose now and again, and you do have to tighten it up. So that's worth just mentioning. And also the bolt handle has like a little click. Can you hear that? When it gets to the top, just keeps it in place. It feels very nice, very buttery smooth. Now let's take a look at the magazine and how the Tomahawk feeds. Now this is the magazine. Now how weird is that? Isn't that just the strangest shaped airsoft magazine you've ever seen? I like it though. I do like it. I like the ingenuity of it. And you might be thinking, well, that's not going to fit in a pouch very easily. Well, surprisingly, it does. When you've got two of them together, they do fit in a pouch very nicely. It does have its quirks, so let's put it on. So it just slides on like that, and you must be pressing the button, and it just pushes on, and it's on now. Right. It's not coming off. There's very, very little movement while it's on there. The only downside I did knock this button a few times, twice in one game, and the magazine fell off. Luckily, I didn't lose it, I did notice it. And it is initially a little bit awkward to put on, but as you can see, I'm now putting this on standing behind the rifle, and I can do it pretty easily. But once you first get the rifle, you're just going to think to yourself, how the hell does that go on there? But yeah, I like it, and I like that it's top fed. So there's your feed tube, BBs go directly down into the hop unit. There's your BB hole on your magazine. Magazines hold 50 BBs, which is very handy indeed. You might be thinking, well, if that's the case, if it's top fed, you're not going to lose any BBs when you change mags. When I was changing an empty mag, I was usually losing about 1 BB at a time. If you change mags halfway through a mag, you will get about 4 sit on top here that will fall out, which was a little bit disappointing. To adjust your hop unit, you've got your TDC here, which gives a very satisfying click, and nice and precise as well, very precise indeed. You've also got a second way of doing it. So you've got, see the hole just there, you've got one on the other side as well, and you can adjust, let me get my fingers in, you can adjust the hop unit either side as well, like same as the SRS really, but I do prefer to free those two off, so bring them all the way up and just use the TDC itself. At the end of the outer barrel, you've got your end cap. Let's get that unscrewed, and that reveals your 14mm counterclockwise thread. Come on, quicker. There we go, your 14mm counterclockwise thread. We'll unscrew that. And that reveals your 510mm Master Mods inner barrel. And you can notice there, it doesn't come all the way to the end. You've probably got another 40-50mm to play with there, which I think is ready for some internal suppression maybe. There is inside there a barrel stabilizer as well to keep that barrel nice and firm in there. I don't like the Master Mods R-Hop. Not a fan of that at all. It didn't really work well for me. It came and it was covered in silicone oil and grease. Cleaned it all off, and it still didn't really work that well with heavy BBs. It does take AEG buckings, and I whipped off the R-Hop gizmo thing that was on there, put on a Flamingo AEG bucking, and I was quite surprised when it held its compression. And I've kept that in there, and the gameplay that I filmed recently was using the Flamingo bucking in this, because I just didn't like the R-Hop in there, I'm afraid, ICS, sorry. Let's whip out the whole barrel assembly. So first of all, you're going to want to turn off the hop chamber, the TDC, turn it all the way off. Undo these two Allen key bolts here. Don't actually say, I say undo them, don't undo them all the way, just loosen them off. I did undo them all the way once, and it was a pain in the arse to get them back in again. So just loosen them. And then we turn off the locking little piece there. And now, fingers crossed, famous last words, here we go. And the outer barrel just slides out. Let's get it in shot. Comes out that easily. Just there is where your TDC pushes down, and your second means of adjusting your hop. There and there, the grub screws. To remove the outer barrel from the hop chamber to reveal your inner barrel, you unscrew these here. Now I'm just doing this one-handed while I'm waving it about in mid-air, so just bear with me a moment. Put that to one side and do the other side there. And then the hop unit just pulls away from the outer barrel, revealing your inner barrel. You've got your spacer, your alignment spacer, which is then loose as well. If you want to strip it down even further still, you've got a grub screw just there and one on the other side. That in turn releases this clamp here. The clamp comes off, which clamps the inner barrel, aligns the inner barrel into the hop chamber. When you feed the outer barrel and the hop unit back into the Tomahawk, just make sure you push it all the way down and hold it down, hold it in place, flip over the lock, make sure that it's pushed all the way back, and then you tighten these bolts here. If you don't do it properly, you will suffer some feeding issues. So if you do get feeding issues after taking the outer barrel and the hop unit out, it's probably because it's not pushed in far enough. And ICS, please give us some shorter outer barrels as well. It would be awesome to have a scout version of this with a very, very short barrel. Well, final thoughts on the ICS Tomahawk. Well done, ICS. You've put together a very nice rifle here. The quality of the parts, the feel of it, the build quality is very, very nice indeed. It has got potential. A few things that I would change about it myself personally would be, I would do that coke can mod on the spring in there, on the spring guide and spring, to stop that twanging, boinging noises. It's not just isolated to the ICS Tomahawk though, there are a few other rifles that do that as well. The modified Stair Scout, I believe that has a, I've not got one myself, but I believe I've been told that it has a boinging, twanging noise as well. It can be fixed with the coke can mod. Very easy modification to do. There's quite a lot of videos out there on how to do that as well. There are a few other ways to quieten it down as well. Suppressing it really does quieten it down significantly. The potential's there to internally suppress it if you want to. That's going to add to it as well, and it's going to keep the length of the outer barrel down too. This is not a knock at the ICS Tomahawk itself. These are a few of the things that us airsoft snipers like to do to make our platforms as quiet as possible. Like I said earlier, I do like the magazine, but like I said as well, it did come off twice in one game. What I feel ICS could do about this is maybe put in a stronger mag release spring in there as well. I feel that it's a little bit too weak, and all you've got to do is knock it on your rig or something else and the mag will just pop off as easy as anything. Hopefully as the Tomahawk becomes more popular, we'll see maybe a manufacturer come out with a heavyweight piston. This thing is crying out for a heavyweight piston. It would make it sassy as hell. Please, Sniper Mechanics, I'm looking at you. A wasp for the Tomahawk, please. That. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.